YouTube. All right, we're live. We are live. Okay, first of all, just want to say we are late because Nick was late. Not to point any fingers, but he was the reason why we're late. Thanks everyone for joining. Today we're going to talk about all things Zeta. Basically, what's going to happen is me and Davis are going to sit here and listen to Nick talk because he is Mr. Zeta. He is the quant. And some exciting news. As you can see, Nick and I are wearing the hat. Davis is not, but he was invited as well. We got invited to Zeta Live in October, which is super exciting.
Yep.
Pretty pumped. All of us will probably try and get an Airbnb together, which would be pretty cool. But yeah, I wanted to wear the hat just for the time being. I think I'm going to take it off because it's kind of gross. But it's a great staple on on the shelf. It's going to collect some dust probably, but
dude,
yeah,
not even a minute in, and you're already talking crap about the merch they gave you.
Yeah,
the disrespect, man.
I'm very grateful, very grateful, very grateful. But yeah, how you guys doing? How's your day been?
I'm great, man. I'm really good. You know what I'm looking forward to? I'm looking forward to hearing or getting up to speed because I wasn't here the other night. I want to know what happened behind the scenes, Davis, at CES.
Honestly, not for the most part. The video they posted was the main meat and potatoes of the Q&A and the fireside. Behind the scenes, it was just a happy hour. We got to talk to the CEO, got to talk to some other C-suite members. I got to talk to Dan Ives, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, crazy flex. That's sick.
Yeah, no big deal.
Dan Ives just casually. Yeah, no big deal.
What was actually cool is I was one of the last ones to leave the fireside, and I'm walking out. I went to the open bar, got one more shot, and I hear David behind me, and I turn around. I'm just like, "Oh, hey!" And he goes, "Hey, wait up!" And so I end up walking with this guy and his team down the hallway in the elevator, and I'm like, I have to say something because I don't say much ever. And I'm just like, hey, I'm really excited to be on this journey with you guys. I love investing in the company. I kind of threw in, I was an early Palantir, and this company reminds me a lot of it. I'm not trying to compare the companies, but I'm just saying I see a lot of, I was just trying to think of anything to say. And it was really cool because like when I first went there, he knew who I was, like instantly. Because I walked in. And they're like, "Oh, thanks for coming back." Because I ended up going early just to try and find the place. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's him, it's David." They're like, "Hey, do you want to meet him?" I'm like, yeah." So I walk up to him. He's like, "Hey, David Steinberg." I'm like, "Oh, I'm Davis. You probably don't know me because Zeta's getting pretty popular." He's like, "No, I know you. You're from X. I invited you." I was like, "What?" Like,
dude, that's awesome.
like,
that's
know
so
me?
Cool.
So it was very one-on-one personable, and it just like the fact that he was so welcoming was just amazing to me because he's the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, and he's saying, "Hey, I know you, like, hey, come hang out with us." And like as I leave the elevator, he just pats my shoulders, gives me a shake. He's like, "All right, I'll catch you later." Like this is
crazy.
Insane.
Is he tall? He looks tall. Is he tall?
Yeah. So when he was like, "Do you want to get a picture with me?" I was like, "Yeah, can we go in front of the Zeta sign?" And then I think he's 6 something. I'm 5'10". I'm like, "Can we sit down in the chairs?" Because that height discrepancy was a bit too much.
It's mogging you a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
That's awesome. Did you have a bite of a cookie too?
What's that? Oh no, that was funny. You know what sucks? It doesn't suck, but I was sitting in the front because I was like, okay, I'm just gonna sit down, and I was at the same level as that guy who took the bite of the cookie. So if they just angled the camera a little bit, you would have seen me the whole time.
So you're right. You were like the first or second row.
I was first row.
Oh wow!
I was the closest one. I'm just like, I don't belong here. Second, what is going on? Because these people they're high level people, and they're talking about CROs and hundreds of millions of dollars, giving these people chance. I'm like, these are words and numbers that I can't comprehend.
That's hilarious. Were you were you able to ask any questions? I forget. You were just there to hear questions, right? Or did you ask anything?
I asked one question. They didn't show the Q&A. And like I said last time, I wish I recorded it because I forgot a lot. And well, it's not that I forgot, it's just I couldn't really understand it on their level. But my question revolved around competition. I'm like, okay, you have your competition that's adopting first party data, omni-channel, AI. I'm like, how do you plan on maintaining your advantage? That was my question. And he not to put words in his mouth or anything, but he kind of just shrugged it off. He's like, while they're still adding on layers to what they currently have that's causing latency, we don't have that. Everything's built in, everything's
Yep.
instantaneous with us. And I mean, that was the gist of his answer. Is like, no, we have that first mover advantage. We're going to maintain it. We have Athena rolling out. No one else has a product like this. Not to say that other people can't make it, but that they're ahead of the competition. They're not going to slow down with their innovating or innovations. So that was kind of the gist of the answer.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, I completely agree with David. Like if you look at the technology, Zeta's in this very interesting position because they decided to rebuild the company back in 2017, and then moving into 2021, they decided to have it like they built it with AI at its core. Nobody else in Martech has a first-party database like Zeta does outside
Yep.
of the walled garden ecosystems. And people don't understand what that means. And they're like, oh, why can't somebody just go out and buy that? Well, the interesting thing is like you can't replicate what Zeta has because it would require you to go acquire somebody with decades worth of publisher networks, and they're like some sort of entity that's paired with companies like New York Times, Washington Post, Uber, Groupon, something with a bunch of consumer identities that are opted in, and then you would actually integrate your technology into every single one of their emails. So first of all, you have to have this exchange. So a consumer goes to your website, opts into your services, gives up some sort of privacy so that you can
Yep.
consume that data. And then you have to build out a network so that you can then see and recognize each one of those consumers on other websites. So let's just say somebody opts into New York Times. And ironically, through Live Intent and the Live Intent acquisition, Zeta now has that individual's identity. Zeta's infrastructure can spot that person on any consumer website pretty well because of the Zeta SDK. And the Zeta SDK is the other branch of this. And the other branch essentially is like a software development kit. That's what SDK stands for, that you either integrate into apps through the App Store or Android, or web development ecosystems like AWS. And that is like the fingerprint tracing mechanism that's able to spot all of these individuals who opted into New York Times and their newsletter. So Zeta owns the mechanism that connects all these people. That type of thing doesn't go on sale ever. And if you want to replicate that, you would then need to build out partnerships and this network of value with all these different companies, and then attract New York Times, attract Uber, attract Groupon, attract Washington Post, all to use your network instead of Zeta's network. And to do that is a very tall task. It's not realistic. That's like saying, oh, I'm going to spin up a social media company today and I'm going to take all of Meta's members. That's not realistic, right? Because there's value behind that. People use it for a reason. So actually replicating Zeta's first party data moat today is next to impossible. It would take decades and decades of first party data collection. But before you even do that, you need to have value in the first place to attract consumers to opt into your services. And how do you do that? Intent data is very, very hard to come by. It's not like you're just some sort of web page collecting, arbitrary data. It doesn't really work that way. You need to be able to collect a piece of information on a person, like an email, and then be able to recognize that email and trace that email across all kinds of different consumer interfaces. Whether, like, I keep using the analogy of American Eagle, for example. American Eagle, or you could go to some sort of like Bass Pro Shop or whatever it may be. You need to be able to find these people on the web. And Zeta's built out that infrastructure. So it's very hard to duplicate. So I'm not surprised, to come full circle, I'm not surprised that David kind of just shrugs it off, because it's very hard to articulate that whole network, that technological advantage. And so when somebody asks you like why are you so comfortable, and I kind of asked him too in my interview, it's like, are you worried about the competition? And he straight up said no, and it kind of surprised me. No, what do you mean? It's like, look, like we actually have this massive data advantage against everybody, and allows us to be agnostic. We're not a walled garden. We're actually the inverse of a walled garden. We can pair with anybody and anything. We don't care.
I feel like Zeta breaks down the wall,
It
you know,
does.
because you can, I guess, a more simplistic way to say it is like we know who you are and we can follow you. Like we can follow you through that wall. We still have your identity. We still know who you are. We still know your past history. We know what you like. We know what you click on. We know what you see. And just because you move to a new platform, you're not this new individual. We already have all this history on you. We know what you like and we know what we can target you with. And I think to go on to your point with that advantage, that's probably why David has said in the past, so many people want to acquire us. He stated on previous earnings calls, he spends a significant portion of his time dealing with people trying to acquire us because that data is so valuable.
It's true. It's true. It'd be much easier for somebody like CRM, like Salesforce or Adobe, to acquire Zeta.
No,
Mhm.
100%.
But then,
Yeah,
frankly,
that's why I guess on the topic of acquisition, like how I don't put it to be that low that it's possible. I know it wasn't and Nick, you mentioned this before that wasn't it a few quarters ago or maybe last year they said they were in talks with someone to acquire them and then it fell through and now it's a much lower chance, you think?
yeah. So on Q1 earnings call of 2025, they
Yeah,
mentioned
okay.
that they're fending off interest. And I think it was those exact words. We're fending off interest from several companies calling us consistently. And at that
Mm,
point of time, Oracle hadn't made an exit of the industry, which now they've done this sort of quiet exit. So I think odds are it was either Salesforce or Oracle. Adobe's making many strides in order to make more of a comprehensive, unified ecosystem, even though it's still like this. They have an epicenter through the Adobe creative experience. However, their analytics side of their platform or their campaign side of their platform or their personalization side of their platform, they're all plugins. They're different different data silos that you kind of plug in and you add on, where Zeta is this unified ecosystem. Everything is all in the same data pool, which
yep.
is a massive advantage. So it would require Adobe to like really restructure their business to sort of replicate Zeta. And
Yeah,
then,
if I had to guess, honestly, CRM's been on an acquisition spree for the past like 3 years. And so if I had to guess, it probably was Salesforce that was dipping their toes to see if they could get them for a cheaper valuation. Right now, Salesforce has 11.5 billion in cash on hand. And I think if David really thinks this company can be a lot bigger, 11 billion is peanuts to where he wants. So unless they're offering 20, 30, 40 billion, I don't see him wanting to sell. Um, but I still don't think it's impossible, right? He has quote unquote a fiduciary duty to sell if the board and the shareholders agree. There's a similar talk with Palantir back in the OG days of them possibly getting acquired by a Microsoft. And Carp basically said, "Screw that," and he also has F class shares, so a little bit of a different side. But yeah, I don't think it's impossible. But yeah, it is a good point that you said that they fended it off, and probably much lower chance now that Oracle's out of the picture because they'd probably be the primary target with how much cash they have.
yeah, personally, I give it about a 20% chance right now. 80% chance Zeta just keeps doing what they're doing. And every
Yeah,
quarter that will go by, that increases by like 2.5% chance less that they get acquired. I
yeah,
think as Zeta gets larger and larger, it becomes more difficult for a company to acquire them.
yeah. I think if we see anything over 10 billion, I would put it near zero.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you know what? That's
Yeah.
very possible that we get close to that this year. I'm not saying that we're going to double our market cap this year,
Oh, come on. Yeah, we are. Let's go.
but I'm very conservative with my estimates, man. But
I know.
but it, like I said, every quarter it seems like we're knocking another 2.5% off the odds.
Yeah,
And it's
100%.
kind of ironic too. Like these, you start to ask questions, right? I rewatched a couple interviews with David the other night, and one of them was like really touching on that hot topic of the short report and this was post short report, and they had the lawsuit, et cetera, and
Yep.
the company's in a quite vulnerable position. And David's being honest, talking and saying like, "Look, I commend these guys. These guys make a quick buck. They came in, hit the stock. They didn't really have credible data. We verified that it's not credible data or information. And we had Deloitte come in. We did an audit, and it debunked everything. But they made a quick buck because the stock tanked. They have a good strategy here. So he's like, I can't notch them because this is part of the game. But he kind of alluded, without saying it, but he kind of alluded to, it's odd how you have interest from these large corporations right after a short report, and they all come swarming, right?
Yep.
He's like, interesting, right? Now we're at our cheapest valuation ever. Meanwhile, we're making the most money that we've ever done, and we just completed an acquisition that makes us an even more of a lethal opposition to you guys. Like, the competition's more ripe. We just acquired Live Intent, which essentially 2x their first party data pool. And now you have all these big companies coming in and trying to acquire the company. It's just an odd circumstance, but I don't blame them either. I mean, if I was a large company too, and I saw a technological leading company, much smaller player, get hit by a short report, and now the stock's half the price, obviously I'm going to come in and try to capitalize on that.
100%. And I think another thing to add too is now we're about, if I had to guess, we're about 6 weeks out from profitability. Less than that, I think it's 4 weeks out, something like that. 3 or 4 weeks out, from profitability. So I guess on that note, are you guys all three of us pretty confident it's going to happen, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I give it about a 90% chance. There is a slight possibility. It depends on how the stock-based compensation is issued, right? Like like if you look in the Marigold deal and you look into what they guided this year for 190 million worth of stock-based compensation. And last quarter we hit about 155 million worth. So there is a fair bit of stock-based compensation left. Now the question is, do they issue some of that out? Do they pull back on some of that stock-based compensation and just give them cash for this Marigold acquisition? Well, like, how do they handle that, right? Because if you look at the fine print of the Marigold deal, they agreed to a certain amount of stock-based compensation that they forecasted earlier on in the year, which is they're within that tolerable range. But the question is, there's a little line that says, and the option for cash portions or something like that. I forget the exact wording. But that's the worry, right? Because last quarter we would have been GAAP profitable if it wasn't for that 6.5 million of acquisition related expenses.
Yep.
Now, the real question, do we have any more acquisition related expenses? We know we have a lot of stock-based compensation coming through this last quarter. The question is, like, what is the actual numbers? I don't know. So that's why I'm saying about 90% chance. I do think that Chris Grimes, the CFO, he's very tactful. He knows what he's doing. Very smart guy. So I think we're going to hit GAAP profitability. And I think the fact that they overemphasized that they were so close last quarter means that, hey.
Yeah, I think as an executive team, I think it's going to happen. Like you said, they're so close. It was they were literally off by 5 million, 4 million,
6
million last quarter. So like, they're going to hit it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And now that they have the momentum with Athena, sorry to cut you off. They have momentum with Athena. Like, I just think David, as the founder, understands sentiment. And to me, this is like the next step of sentiment to keep having that sentiment increase and kind of S curve, essentially.
And last quarter with SBC, their net dilution was 0% because of all the buybacks they did. And just going off what Nick said, like, he emphasized that a lot, that they were very close to profitability. So in my mind, management isn't going to miss profitability. They've stated it in the past. They're ramping down SVC to 3 to 4% for a full year 2026.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, with their buybacks and their accelerated buybacks, it could come in even lower. I genuinely think that. So we'll see.
Yeah, because they have that $200 million
Yep.
program right now. So that's gonna be pretty interesting. And next year,
how much of it did they spend? Do we know?
I think they've spent somewhere between 17 and 30 million.
And the 200 million is over the course of 2 years or 3 years?
Yeah, so it expires Q4 2027.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
So from this point, 2 years. Yeah, I think. And yeah, if you do an average of 185 divided by 8 quarters, it's like 25 million a quarter. If they average it out, it'll probably slowly increase. So it'll probably be 13, 15, 18 million. But
Yeah.
I bet, like you said, because of that, I think they're smart enough to know let's offset some SBC with our buyback program. Just show 1 cent. It's probably gonna be literally 1 cent of gap profitability just to show, hey, we're profitable.
Yeah.
And then we'll slowly see it ramp over time as they become operationally profitable. We see that operational leverage continue to tick up, free cash flow tick up. And I think from there we'll kind of see more consistent beats.
they did have that one-off. They were gap profitable once in the past, right? Was that during like an election cycle?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was Q4 2024.
Okay.
That was when the stock ran up big, and then they got hit with the short report. So it was actually quite a while.
Dude, these short reports always come out at the just the most opportune time. I hate to say that the markets are manipulated, but that's like the most opportune time. Oh, they're profitable first time. Companies are trying to buy them. Let's short this stock.
Man,
And write a bull
was
crap
crazy.
report.
It was crazy. They were up 18% pre-markets, and
Oh,
and then the short report. Sorry, they were up 18% after markets. Short report dropped just before they went on their earnings call.
Classic.
really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
And then the
That's
stock.
insane. That's
Yeah.
the same. There was a massive short report in 2022 for Palantir as well. That was sort of like we all laughed at it, but it's just like if you own not even a controversial, but just a growth stock that isn't fully liked, you're always going to get at least one short report.
Yep.
I think it's always hilarious to me how they're the most opportune times when they drop them. Like same thing, even it's different scenario, but even on HIMS, the Novo Nordisk partnership, they dropped it like a day before the earnings. It's like, okay, come on, seriously, we know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
my thoughts
Yeah.
on that.
Circling back to the stock-based compensation, I actually think there's a possibility that it could be much lower in terms of percentage of revenue than what they have guided for. Because you got to remember, they guided for that 3 to 4% of revenue before they made the Marigold acquisition, and before they factored in that rate, so the guidance raise in top line revenue. And you got to keep in mind, they've also only given us a minimum guide for revenue.
Right.
That's something I keep telling people. They've only given us a minimum guide. They haven't
when
even.
you see minimum, that's easily a conservative playing the Wall Street game.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's crazy. I definitely think Zeta is very well positioned to destroy that 34% year-over-year growth target they have next year. There's no way. Like on average, they beat their middle guide by 8% each quarter. 8%. So it's like at the end of the day, like if you're conservative and you think that they're going to beat their top line growth by 4% and then Marigold guide by, let's say, another 3%, they're getting somewhere around 40% year over year growth.
Yeah. Which would put them in a different category because at that point their free cash flow would probably be around, what do you think, 20%, 18%?
Yeah.
Which would put them at a rule of 40 of 60.
Yeah.
Or 55, somewhere in there.
Yeah, and that's
which puts them in a different class of SaaS company, in my opinion.
And that's why I think there's like this company is perfectly positioned for massive re-rating, right? Because institutional investors treat profitable companies, GAAP profitable companies that are consistently GAAP profitable, completely different than non-profitable companies. So you're going to have institutional inflows into a company like Zeta, first of all, overnight, the first time they're GAAP profitable. Once their second consecutive quarter GAAP profitable in a row, you're going to have even more institutional buy-in. And then you start adding in these different tailwinds, like the lawsuit dropping, or some sort of resolution out of court, in court, doesn't matter. Once that's gone, that's just a massive headwind out of the way. And then you look at 2026 and their guidance, and they're literally sandbagging as they've done for 17 quarters in a row. These guys are it's very clinical, right? It's like this. They're masters of sandbagging. It's quite interesting to see.
100%, and I think the guide probably doesn't really include if I was David, if I was the CFO, I wouldn't include much Athena revenue, if any at all. I wouldn't attribute any guide for Athena, and so I feel like a lot of Athena is not even baked in my
I
opinion.
know. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Which goes off beta in about a month or a month and a half.
Yeah.
And so I think we'll see a lot of that become accretive in Q4 of this year, 2026, and then a lot in 2027.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, crazy undervalued. I don't. Yeah, I'm with you there. That I think they're sandbagging like crazy.
I mean, if we remember what we talked about last time when he mentioned Zoe increased spend by 200 to 300%, and so David and the team they're making it sound like Athena is 10 times better than Zoe ever was.
Yeah.
So if we just factor in, okay, if inferior product like Zoe was able to give us 200 to 300% more revenue, Athena, who knows where that's going to go? It's going to be more than 200 to 300% if history repeats itself.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it's the cross-selling flywheel, right? Because
Right.
Athena is going to be able to you reduce that human friction level with the platform, right? Because if you hop onto Adobe today, everybody knows this. Anybody who's used Adobe, and the reason why I bring up Adobe is because a lot of people are used to like graphic design or whatever it may be. There's a barrier to entry. You have to learn how to use the software before you actually do something productive. Athena is Zeta's remedy for that. They realize, okay, there's a certain level of human friction with our software. Somebody has to know what they're doing in order to navigate it, even though we have some base level automations with Zoe. Athena removes that. It's an LLM interface that you can either text to, so like you type, or you just communicate verbally. So that reduces that friction level. So then you could just ask it to do something like, hey, build me a brand new campaign for this product that targets the most effective demographic for this product. Here's some information that I have on, my basic market research. Bingo. You give them that information. It goes off and it does a simulation, identifies the, right key demo, the right vertical to attack those key demos, which means which channel should I deploy it? So Meta, mail, whatever it may be, CTV. And then it gives you the best ROI methods. So let's just say it pairs up like 3 examples, right? 3 panels on screen. One says you get 5% ROI. The other one says you get 10%. And the next one says you get 15. Well, the 5%, you can achieve that today with all of the tool sets you have. Every single channel you currently have and you're subscribed to. The middle one that says whatever, like 10%, you need to buy one more channel, get access and subscribe to one more channel through Zeta. And then the final one with 15x ROI, you need to subscribe to every single Zeta channel, right? So Athena's this flywheel that literally, with backed by data, pushes in front of you ROI that you can just click and grab today, right in front of the user, where they couldn't do that before. They would actually try to upsell, call up client and say, hey, you know what? You should really try this next channel or this new feature we have. But Athena does that for them. It's like a sales agent on steroids.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of, I don't know. I find it intangible to value, meaning like I don't even know the amount of flywheel effect it's going to have. It's going to be a lot. It's so hard for me to even grasp the benefits it's going to have, because really what it's doing is empowering anyone to be a marketer, and that is an extremely powerful tool, similar to Palantir. Hey, bringing up the same company or that company, but it's a similar story where it empowers a salesperson to become sort of an engineer. It empowers a marketing VP to become an engineer. Same thing with Athena, where I feel like it's going to empower anyone, entry to all the way up to VP or director, to be a marketer, and that is invaluable. I mean, when they start seeing ROI, when they start seeing the value there, like you're saying, Davis, Zeta or Zoe was 200 or 300%. I mean, it could be 2,000, 3,000%, just in
Yep.
terms of the value. And it's just, for me, it's so intangible to value. I don't even know. We got to wait to see what they say. But I'm super pumped to hear customer success stories. And Davis and I were talking, it was yesterday or 2 days ago, about
Yeah.
I hope to do a similar thing to Palantir where they have like an AthenaCon or AthenaCon. And they have, their enterprise customers come out, the ones that want to, and show how they're using Athena, why it benefits them, and how they love it. Just for more prospecting customers, I think that would just create, God, a massive S curve in growth, in my opinion.
I know. I
Um,
definitely, if David is watching this, which I doubt it, Like do an AthenaCon, and if he's not
Yeah.
watching it, we have to pitch it to him because I want to hear customer testimonials about it. I want to see more demos, how it's working, and it's just like Athena's not the moat for Zeta. It's just going to accelerate the moat that Zeta already has.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I'm really excited to see it. Also, Nick, I want to get your opinion on it because I shared it with Nate. Um, at the fireside, David was asked, he's like, okay, you built Athena without OpenAI. Like, what was the purpose of the partnership? And again, he gave some answer. I don't really remember it or comprehend it. But one thing that stuck out to me was he said, you're going to be able to use Athena out of house. Like, you don't have to be at your business to use it. You can go on your phone, you can go on your laptop, you can access Athena and instantly give it that information that you just learned about. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Interesting. So two things come to mind. So in terms of the partnership with ChatGPT and OpenAI, like you said, they built Athena from the ground up, and they have really good, what David would say, middle-sized LLMs, or not, instead of like large language models, medium-sized language models. They're very good at that, and that's kind of what Athena is. Um, I think the intent of the partnership was to open the door with OpenAI, because OpenAI has a brand new portal, a brand new doorway into first-party data, and they also have an activation channel through GEO technology, right? Generative engine optimization, that Zeta can really capitalize on. So if they have a working relationship with somebody like OpenAI, they can then start routing enterprise clients through that channel into that back door of OpenAI, theoretically, if they build that partnership out. And I think going to OpenAI and saying, hey, we'd love to integrate your developer side integrations into Athena native at its core, so that we can build this working relationship, because we think we have value we can add to you, and we know you have value you can add to us, because we kind of want to reduce that friction level between our clients and our infrastructure. So I think that's a little bit of a lead magnet in negotiations to kind of get them in that door with OpenAI, so that they could potentially be the first ones in and hit the ground running with geo technology at that enterprise level. Secondly, with Athena and giving access to the consumer, this could be the attempt from Zeta to collect more first party data through Athena. So if they give people access to Athena, they realize like LLMs are just first party data collectors, massive. Like the amount of first party data and consumer intent data that you're collecting through these LLMs, whether it be Anthropic, OpenAI, or Google, they're just absorbing all this information. So if Zeta offers up Athena as some sort of language model module that's useful, I don't know why somebody would gravitate and utilize Athena over ChatGPT or over Gemini or
Yeah.
Claude. I'm not too
Yeah.
sure. I would have to kind of figure out, okay, where's their value proposition? Because once again, if you want to collect first party consumer intent data, there needs to be a value proposition where that consumer opts in and you actually give them something tangible in return, right? Whether it be a
Yep.
performance or, something. And I don't see that there yet. So maybe they need to talk about that a little bit more, and David can kind of fill in the gaps. And that's a great question to ask him if somebody were to have another interview with him. But yeah, yeah, I don't really have an answer for that, but hopefully my response on the partnership kind of
What do
clarify.
you put the odds at that OpenAI uses Zeta for their integrated ads and GA technology? What do you? I mean,
I put it
what do
about
you think?
How
Yeah.
80%.
much?
How'd you come up with 8? I'm curious. You just didn't want to do 10?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, you said 8%?
No, 80%.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. I thought you
See,
said
I'm pretty
8%. I was like,
bullish
how'd
on
you come
that
up with
too.
8?
Nate
Interesting.
had a pretty low number.
I don't even know what my number was, but I mean, it's possible. It's definitely not impossible. Um, I guess I'm just being bearish on OpenAI partnering with like a little $5 billion company when most of their partnerships are these behemoths. Not saying it's not possible, and that's probably a dumb reason to think that way, but I don't know. Maybe I don't want to be too confident on it and be surprised on the upside if it does happen.
Well, let me ask you this. So were you surprised, or were you surprised to hear that Meta Google and Amazon have working relationships and partnerships with Zeta Global?
I guess when I was researching, yes. When you say that now, no.
Now, do you
Um,
think it's also tactful for a company like Zeta Global and also in their repertoire to go to somebody like an up-and-coming technological leader like OpenAI and formulate a partnership so that there's cross incentivization, just like Meta, Google, and Amazon?
100%. No, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's kind of where
Um,
my brain goes. I think the technological team that David has assembled is like best of class in Martech. And they know exactly what they're doing because David talks about this quite transparently. They made a decision years ago to not compete with Meta, to not compete with Google, and not compete with Amazon for a reason, because they want to use them as activation channels. And they know
yeah.
that if they do that and they formulate that relationship, they'll give them a priority queue, meaning that they're not going to be actively looking to stamp on their territory. And likewise, Zeta is actually just going, if it's most beneficial for that specific client, route their client through their activation channel right into Meta's platform or Google or Amazon. I think that exact same solution is going to be integrated into ChatGPT through the
Mhm.
GEO channel, generative engine optimization. I think building out these relationships is just intuitive. And frankly, I eventually think that relationship will be built out with somebody like Gemini too. And maybe Anthropic, who knows?
It's interesting. Um, I feel like it would, especially since they already have the relationship with Google. And then something, it was interesting seeing. There's a couple. I have a couple thoughts here, I guess. First is I do think it's odd or a little bit of a red flag seeing ChatGPT go down the ad route within the LLM interface. We also saw Google, one of their engineers, or one of the people leading the LLM side of Gemini, said like, "Oh, they're going to it that early. That's a little weird." Obviously, Google is profitable and makes a crap load of money, and so they can continue to do it at a loss for probably a decade. Whereas OpenAI is now still not profitable, valued at like almost $1 trillion, something insane, and so they're trying to get all the revenue they can. And so I guess I'm a little bearish in the aspect of just I don't really trust OpenAI yet until they can be public and make money. And I think the partnership is a little worrying for me. I'd rather than partner with a Gemini or Anthropic. Anthropic's not profitable either, but like a Gemini or go down that route since they already have that relationship with Google. Um, but obviously, OpenAI is the only one actually doing the ads, and so that's why the partnership happened in the first place. But I just think I'm a little bearish on OpenAI in general about how they just make no money, and I don't think it's guaranteed that they're here to stay, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I agree. But you got to remember, Zeta's agnostic. They don't care who
Hundred
or what.
percent.
They're going to partner with everybody. And
Yeah.
I think the fact that they partnered not exclusively with Meta, not exclusively with Google, or exclusively with Amazon tells you that, okay, they partnered with all three. They are truly agnostic. They'll go to a walled garden like ChatGPT, which is a walled garden, right? They collect information in that ecosystem, and that information, that first party data stays within that ecosystem, and OpenAI utilizes that data. And now they're going to be able to activate upon that first party data set. What Zeta is doing is saying, hey, we have first party data outside of your walled garden. How about we verify cross referencing with your first party data and our first party data to have a very high level resolution and accuracy to say, let's deploy that ad to that one user so that we know we're going to make that sale for that client. That's what they're doing. That's the exact same roadmap that they've come up with Meta, Google, Amazon. So, and also any other client that comes to them with a first party data set. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
think
think
it's
it's very
kind of
smart. Like, I agree with you on all your notes about OpenAI. I think that's a given. But as for Zeta, I think this is very, very, very smart. Very, very smart. And frankly, in the future, all these LLMs are becoming commoditized. So you
Yeah.
may, if you don't like using the voice layer of ChatGPT with Athena one day, I guarantee you'll probably be able to click a button, swap your voice entity or your LLM to Gemini
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or Anthropic, right? I think that's
100%.
probably what's going to happen 5 years down the line. Is you're going to be able to interchange all these things, and it's just a commodity. What really matters is that first party data. First party data is king, and Zeta has the only large body first party intent database outside of these walled gardens.
Yeah, I think it's like Nate, you say that the ads with OpenAI is kind of a red flag for you.
Yeah, I think them going to basically essentially they need to make money. They're clearly doing
But
this because they need to make money.
like,
And so to me, that's a little bit of a red flag.
doesn't every company eventually turn to ads? Like you think of Netflix, for example. They're supposed to be the company that
Yeah,
got rid of ads. Like if there's a place to make money, they're companies are going to do it. And ads, everyone hates them,
of
but we end
course.
up dealing with them. Like for YouTube, we're streaming to YouTube right now. I have YouTube Premium because I hate ads, but a lot of people
Yeah, same.
don't. And it's just like Nick was saying, they're agnostic. They don't care. They're like,
100%.
"Hey, there's an opportunity for us to make money. We're going to do it." So I don't really think it's a red flag. And even if it is a red flag for OpenAI, it's not a red flag for Zeta because they're like, hey, there's an opportunity here. We're going to take it. We have the best data available for you, so use us. Like we know these customers, and OpenAI, I've used it to search up products in the past, especially hiking products. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, Chat GPT probably knows me better than I know myself at this point. And it's just like, okay, if Zeta can capture this potential partnership and whatever OpenAI is doing, it's going to be huge for Zeta. So
Yeah,
I'm really
100%.
excited for it.
I do think, yeah, even Ty Invest in the chat said same elements that it was a last resort to push ads on the platform. There was a video clip that came out of him in like 2024 where he said if we were to push ads, that's the last resort for us.
Yeah.
And now 18 months later, he's doing it, or less than that, 60 months later. Um, yeah, no, I 100%. I think the partnership's great. I think it puts him in a good spot. I just think I'm not as bullish yet until I see some numbers behind it or understand it a little more because I think Google could just do the same thing. If we're talking about first party data, they have 15 years of YouTube data and 25 years of Google Chrome data. And so to me, that's one of the best data sets on the planet. And so
Yep.
if they want to do their own GEO with probably better, if they're same, if not better engineers, they will. And so to me, I need to see GEO come to fruition first before I'm more bullish on it, probably. Because I don't think it's as black and white as we're painting it right now. But I do think in 3 to 5 years, like you said, like LLMs are commoditized. I actually believe that every company will have their own LLM um, on the backs of an open source model. But yeah, that's just more of my thoughts on it.
I agree with you.
I guess,
It's interesting to see like what's going to happen, but at the end of the day, I think Zeta is very well positioned just purely because it's agnostic, right?
yeah.
I think
No, I do agree. I think it was smart of them to not say like, this is our only partnership. Like you said, they partner with Meta, Amazon, Google, and so like if it were to open up in the future, they'll take it because they already have those previous relationships. So I think they're in a good spot regardless. I'm just not as bullish on the GEO technology yet. Maybe it's just because I don't understand it, but also I think I just need to see it a little more and see. Yeah, I just need to see it a little more honestly. I think to
you
be
got to
more
remember,
bullish.
like GEO is an optimization channel, right? It's like how do
Yeah,
I best represent a brand in LLM answers? Does that make sense?
yeah,
So
yeah,
because
yeah,
search engine optimization is like literally every company and their grandma does
yeah.
like search engine optimization where they'll go out and say, hey, I can set up your company and everything on your website so that you're perfectly optimized to become up first in those top 4 answers on Google search, right? GEO is that equivalent thing for an enterprise. This is what Zeta's proposition is for an
Yep,
enterprise to properly represent them in an LLM. So hopefully,
yep,
maybe that helps you understand what that technology is. It's not saying, "Hey, we're going to get ads onto this platform." If ChatGPT says, "Hey, we want to put ads on this platform," that's just another activation channel for Zeta. That's not necessarily GEO technology.
yeah. Okay.
So GEO is like the brand becomes the answer rather than just the recommendation kind of thing?
Correct,
Or
correct,
okay.
correct. So it's like, let me like if I searched up today, let me search up something quickly, like Jeff Bezos portfolio, right?
All right.
Great SEO would put, for example, like a company like Fintel comes up second, Motley Fool is number one, right? Yahoo Finance is number three. The SEO on these companies is top class, so that
Yep.
they're featured first in that ranking for that search resolution. GEO will represent brands, so an enterprise brand, in the exact same manner, but on an AI
So
LLM.
it basically they'll be talking about like black leggings, and Lululemon would be the one recommended because of
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Like, oh, you know what? Some of the most commonly recommended black leggings are Lululemon, whatever model. And then it'll be like a little squiggly line underneath it. And you can click that and it goes right to that brand's page with their product.
Yeah,
That's
what would be
cheap.
really cool is like once it'll know like, oh, we know you're a size small, and yeah, I think there's a lot of cool things that could come out behind it.
Yeah. And Zeta
Um,
has the ability to do that with their first party data. No other
Yeah.
company could. Other companies can offer GEO where they recommend a company, but Zeta they're the only people who would have the potential outside of walled gardens, of course, but in ChatGPT or Gemini, have that little hyperlink. And then when that specific person clicks on that hyperlink to Lululemon, it opens up with their exact size, their exact color they want, what other search history they have. Zeta has that potential. No other company does. And that's simply because of their first party mode advantage.
so I guess let's hone in on this. You talk about first party data a lot. I
Yeah.
think anyone would be, would benefit from here. You kind of dumbing it down of third party data, first party data, why that matters, because that is essentially the moat for Zeta, right? So I think it'd be helpful for people to understand that a little more.
So, like, to make it very simple, if you look at third party data is provided by another entity based off of what is often search generalizations and trends rather than specific verified deterministic identities. What does that mean? First party data is deterministic, where third party data is probabilistic. Probabilistic means within a certain degree of accuracy, it's usually quite low, upwards of maybe 30%, but no higher than 70%. We think this group of people are interested in this product. Where deterministic data says this person we know for a fact is interested in this specific product. That's the core difference. So third party data is a data set, usually a large group of people and indicators and signals that would be generally accepted to say, hey, this is a highly probable group of people who is interested in your product. Send them a bunch of ads. Some of them will land somewhere between that 30 to 70% hit rate, where Zeta says, hey, this one single person we know for a fact will buy your product with a 95-degree percent accuracy rate. That's the difference
Okay.
between first party and third party data.
Got it. That makes sense. Now, how does Zeta have first party data and other platforms don't?
So Zeta
Explain
has
that piece.
Zeta has first party data through owned data assets. For example, like Live Intent that I explained earlier on in the stream. This is a publisher network. So brands like New York Times and Uber, for example, or Groupon, where they have services that people opt into, they go to Live Intent, and Live Intent has a network of people who are subscribed to it. And they distribute that information, all those newsletters via email. So whenever somebody signs up for New York Times, they're signing up and opting into the service network of Live Intent. So that means they get to grab that email and put a little tag on it. So then they know for a fact wherever that email shows up on any Zeta infrastructure or Zeta partnered infrastructure, they're able to identify that person and what they're doing. So that builds a profile of what that person is, what they like, what they do. So then they're able to use that as an identifier to then pair with a customer's data set. So you have Zeta's data, which is very rich in information, and then you have a customer's data set. What Zeta does is they put the two of them together. And they say, okay, we know for a fact that this 500 people that you have, we know exactly who they are and what they like. We're going to output a number, and that number is the Zeta data code. Let's just call it that.
Yep.
That is what's used in the ZMP, the Zeta marketing platform, to then go through all these automations and deployments to know that, okay, I can activate upon this person through this specific channel and send them an ad and know that I'm going to get a result back because I have very high quality data on that specific individual and I know it's in my client's database. Not only that, too, you're able then to take that person in those 500 people in that client's database, put them aside and say, hey, we're only going to offer these people and send them ads for what they know they want. Everybody else, we're going to identify people who are not in this customer's database and queue them up as probable individuals who want their product. Let's figure out what they're looking for and push ads to them from our client to get them more interested in our client's product. So it helps them win customers rather than just retain customers.
Got it. That makes total sense. And for people in the chat, why can't an Adobe, why can't a Salesforce, just like you said, we were talking about a little bit earlier, just acquire a company like Live Intent to get that first party data?
It's because they don't exist. You need that value proposition. You would need decades and decades of relationships built out with different networks and publishers who integrate into your services. And because Live Intent has that advantage of one reach and that massive network of people opting in and just a better technological product, everybody uses Live Intent for that distribution network. So you can't acquire another Live Intent, right? That's just like saying, hey, let me go out today and acquire another Instagram. When Meta acquired Instagram, that was it. There is no other Instagram. Somebody made TikTok a decade later, but you understand what I'm saying? Like there is a technological
100%.
and there's a network there that it takes time and there's a value proposition involved in that as well. Live Intent offers a product to these valuable entities like Uber, Groupon, New York Times, Washington Post. I just use these four as an example. People then subscribe to those services. The reason why those companies use Live Intent because Live Intent gets information to these consumers the most efficiently. And they have a track record of doing that. So they have the massive network of scale. It would take somebody to go there and replicate that. Today, there's nobody else doing that. And specifically, you would have to find a network as well that collects information and people opt into it willingly in a way that they're also interfacing in a manner that collects first-party consumer intent data, not just random first-party data.
Yeah. I put this up because we talked about this a little bit, Ty Invest. I think we mentioned before that David in Q1 of 2025 was trying to stop the big boys like a CRM. He never named the actual company themselves that did it, but he said a big company was trying to acquire them. He said they were trying to stop them from doing it. And I think one of the reasons I like investing in founder-led companies is typically they don't like to sell out because they know there's a much higher TAM and the company can be much bigger. So for me, as long as David's still here, I don't think they're all ever will sell. It's more my opinion.
I agree.
So, Nick, you're basically saying that Zeta has this advantage since no one else is doing it. Zeta has so much history and learned behavior from these individual customers that just can't be replicated. Because if you were to just acquire something brand new, like someone built a brand new company and started collecting data now, you don't know the history of the individuals. You don't know their patterns. Is that kind of what you're saying?
And before you answered, Nick, I do have one question too. Kind of on the back of that. So essentially, you were saying that Live Intent it's like trying to say you could just acquire another Instagram when Instagram doesn't exist. Are you essentially, and the assumption is that Live Intent was basically the only company doing this and that had that network of that data? Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So it's like saying the difference between X and Threads, right?
Right.
There may be something like Threads that exists, but we're talking an order of magnitude difference in size and scale.
Right.
Everybody, if news breaks, people go to X, don't go to Threads. Threads is an afterthought. Same thing with Live Intent. Live Intent is that for publishers, but publishers matter because they interact with the consumer. So consumers, like anybody who wants to subscribe to New York Times, uses their email to subscribe to New York Times. That means then Zeta is able then to hash that email. When they hash that email, they're able then to identify anywhere on the web that they have their infrastructure, their software sort of data package, right? That they're able to sort of build into websites, apps, whatever it may be. They're able to identify who those people are. So then that email just being used on any account anywhere, activated on Google, whatever it may be, on a website somewhere, they're able then to say, hey, this person was here and they clicked on this, they clicked on that, they liked this, they spent this much time on this web page looking at this product, they searched this, they searched that. Zeta's
Yep.
able to collect all that information because of that network. It's very hard to get a large sum of consumers to opt into a service. So finding that is very difficult. The only other things that we know of are things like LLMs, Meta products, Google products, and Amazon products. Right? Everything else is very, very low touch base. Like it has to be something that people click and interact with quite frequently. Like Netflix collects first party, intent, not really intent data, but they just collect first party data. Just because somebody watches something on Netflix doesn't give you first party intent data into what they want to buy. It gives you information about that Netflix ecosystem, about what they want to watch, but you have no idea what products they want to buy just because they watch something on Netflix. That's what I mean about two different types of first party data. Like you have to have some sort of touch point that collects first party consumer intent data. What does this person want to buy? And that's very hard to replicate. And live intent, it's never going on the market again. And this is what makes Zeta so valuable and enriches Zeta so much. Adding on top of that is something like Marigold and Marigold's acquisition of their enterprise ecosystem, specifically their loyalty network. Their loyalty network is so valuable because just like live intent for publishers was this network that people utilized because it worked, because that's distribution, right? If you are somebody like New York Times or Uber, you use live intent because their distribution network is superior to everybody else. It's a better technology. Just like X is better than Threads, people go to X because it's better, right? Marigold, they had a loyalty network. So somebody like American Eagle who wants to build a loyalty program, or let's say Amex who wants to build a loyalty program, or Visa or MasterCard who wants to build a loyalty program, they go to Marigold enterprise loyalty program to build out that network because they have the best distribution.
Yep.
The thing is with that network, you're able then to collect a bunch of IDs. And if you integrate into all of these clients, then you're able to identify specifically what those people buy at the store. So instead of just getting a bill that says they spent $98 at Lululemon, no, you get the exact breakdown that they bought this sock, this size, this color, this pair of shorts, this size, this color, this pair of leggings, this size, this color. That's what the SKU level data gets out of Marigold. And that's why Zeta's moat is just growing, literally acquisition after acquisition, where you'll have people like Adobe who are playing catch up because they're buying something like SEMrush. And SEMrush is just like a technological integration that just says, hey, we're going to activate SEO or GEO technology. It's not a data enriching feature, where Zeta's focusing on the data because they're so good at the technology already.
I was going to say that this is just like SKU data.
Yeah, that's what it is. SKU level data.
Because, like, for example, I mean, I'm going to dumb it down a lot more. When I talk to ChatGPT about winter jackets for hiking, like I'm a North Face fanboy, and if I type in like I'm looking for a good winter jacket with so and so level of waterproofing and wind resistance, yeah, it's going to give me a bunch of different brands, but specifically, I want the North Face brand in a certain color in a certain size. And I think that's where Zeta's advantage comes from because, okay, let's say I was browsing jackets on Amazon. It already knows that I was looking for a waterproof, windproof winter jacket, this color, this brand, this size. Now, if I go to a different website that also uses Zeta, it's already going to know what I was previously looking at. So it's not going to waste any time. Like companies aren't going to have to waste time sending out ads that aren't going to affect me at all. They're already going to know like, hey, he likes this brand, so we're going to offer this brand or another brand that's very similar to this brand instead of just throwing out these random brands that I don't care about. Like I get that all the time on Instagram. I'll be scrolling. It's like, hey, I've looked at pants or jackets in the past and I'll see them. I'm like, dude, this is nothing like what I was looking at. Like, sure, it's still a pant, but it's not what I'm after. And I think that's where Zeta's value comes in. It's like, no, we know what type of item he's looking for. So when companies use Zeta, they don't have to worry about spending money on ads that don't work. And I think that's where that return value comes in and where David always emphasizes for every dollar you spend with us, we'll get six back. And it's like, okay, that makes sense. We don't have to waste all this money throwing out all these ads when we know what's going to work. And because I'm getting targeted that way, I'm more inclined to click on it, research it, and then all of a sudden I find this new brand that I like, or North Face. I'm like, okay, let me explore other products here. And then they just, I become a customer of a new brand or something, and then I'm in their ecosystem.
100%. I don't know if you saw this comment from Amit, but I figured I'd show you what he said. And either way, thanks
Who's
for
that
listening, Amit.
guy in here, man?
I know. Thanks everyone for listening. By the way, we've had like 15 to 25 people consistently the whole time, so we
Wow.
appreciate it. It's super fun.
Yeah.
Well,
I
Yeah,
know
so
we're at an hour, gents. I don't know what else you guys want to cover.
no, I'm ready to
Um,
keep going here.
yeah, dude, this is worth
Davis,
this
so
was
your example, what you were saying on Instagram, you got these ads that, kind of what you were looking for, but not it.
yeah,
That's the perfect example of third party data.
right.
You were in a probabilistic data set that
Hmm.
they think you may be interested in it, but it's not the product you want. If
Yeah.
you get a product ad, that's exactly what you want. That's first party data activation. That's
Hmm.
something
yeah.
doing exactly what you want and deploying an ad to you. That's what Zeta can do. So you're
Yeah.
going to see third party data activation on Meta because you'll have agencies using Meta to activate. They only use third party data. That's the complete difference. That's completely different, right? Meta has the ability to activate upon first party data. You can buy that sort of information from them, but it's very expensive, right?
Hmm.
That's now something I kind of wanted to bridge into, and this sort of gets back up to that macro, sort of the macro AI thesis. And I make this argument in multiple of my Substacks. So when I talk about Zeta or UiPath and another company that I'm working on a Substack right now, Nate may or may not have started a position in this company, but
Yep.
we can talk about that later. Now, the macro thesis is the time variable. In other words, theta, the theta variable. I believe when a company comes out with a technology that increases the rate of which somebody can get an ad to a consumer and that time variable that they can do that in, then the consumer's expectations change. The consumer then over time will demand more of that. And they will demand more and more and more personalized ads to the point where they will want an extremely personalized ad featuring all the things they're interested in, meaning Davis with those hiking pants, that North Face jacket, the Yeti thermistor, and some sort of backpack and shoes that he wants. Literally, it'll be some dude hiking on a mountain with that exact outfit. That will be the expectation of the consumer. When a company can achieve those things and slowly moves towards that direction and then eventually speeds up faster and faster to achieve that reality, the consumer will demand it. And if the competition can't keep up with a technological leader, they will fall by the wayside. And this is the exact same sort of scenario that happened with Palantir.
I
When
was just say
Palantir,
Palantir is the same mantra. Time to value is literally their
exactly,
entire thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now this is what's happening for the consumer, and this is where the consumer marketing technology is sort of accelerating. And I believe like Zeta, just like Palantir was several years ago, and we're drawing parallels here because they're not the same company, but they follow a similar principle that they're changing that time variable, right? And that value proposition of we are selling our customers outcomes because we can guarantee outcomes because our
Yep.
data is superior, right? We have the ability to analyze data, look at that data, and then give you an outcome that is superior than the competition. That is the comparison here. That's what's similar, nothing else. What I'm saying is that this scenario and that time variable change for the consumer is happening right now because of Zeta. All these other companies like Oracle, Salesforce, Adobe, they're either going to be wedged into a corner of the market or pushed out of the market completely because of the demand. This sort of this massive paradigm shift because of this time variable change. And like I hope I'm not losing people with this, but like I really encourage you either go out there and read what I wrote on paper maybe a few times so that you can understand it. But this shift is going to happen slowly at first, but then it's going to accelerate rapidly and it's going to be the status quo. And then all of a sudden, on every single YouTube channel that you watch, you're going to get ads specifically curated for you. And that's going to be the expectation as a consumer. And then in some manner, you're going to be able to interact with these ads eventually.
100%, and that
Yeah.
was my entire belief in the reason I bought Palantir was we can provide outcomes. We are about time to value, and if you don't use us, you're going to lose.
Yep.
Right? Exact same. Just to sum it up, like if you don't use us, you will lose. And so it's a similar mantra for companies that want to market. Like if you don't use Zeta, you will lose over the next 5 years, and that's sort of going to be hopefully how I think David and team is going to put that as their value prop and keep that mantra moving forward. If we sell outcomes, the classic thing he starts every interview: $1 in gives you $6 out. And so I think if he just continues doing that year in and year out, year in and year out, and saying, right now they're at 40. What is it? 43 out of 100 Fortune 100 or 57 out of Fortune 100?
47.
47.
47? Yeah, something like that.
So if he just every quarter, we are not 50, we're not 55. If you're not the 45, you're going to lose. We're not 60. If you're not one of the 40, you're going to lose. And just continuing that mantra, I think you're 100% right. Like when it becomes that first party data of the ad of you get exactly what you want in the model you want it in the style, anything, it's going to be just the status quo. You're going to be like, okay, why am I getting this stupid ad for something that's not even my size for a color I know I don't like? What's the point? I want to use a platform that's going to allow me to get that email to me of there's your thing's on sale that you know you like, and boom, I buy it right then. So 100% agree with that.
Yeah,
about time to value.
They're also Zeta's able to calculate too customer churn and retention. So they know that spamming people text messages all the time saying this is on sale isn't going to work. So they're very tactful with what they do. Like it's super impressive. And I understand, like when I was on stream the other day on Stock Tank, there was some reluctance about the data moat. And I think it comes down to comprehension. And I think today I was able to kind of break it down a little bit more effectively.
Yeah. I think you also, to be fair to you, you had a lot to cover in like 90 minutes.
I did.
You talked about everything we talked about and numbers and everything else. So like it's hard to cover all that 90 minutes and then get everyone on board.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. I think you spelled out a little better this time and kind of gave more of a what I would say a dumbed down version. And you give yourself more time to be able to explain it. Of why it matters and why it is a moat. And how there aren't anyone else out there at the scale that Zeta is doing it. Like maybe they can acquire some first party data sets from a few network partners, but the scale that Zeta can, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, well, like I said too, you can acquire first party data, but there's a difference between first party data sources, right? Yeah. Is it deterministic first party data, like consumer intent data, or is it the equivalent to Netflix first party data, right? Like if you acquire a data set, like some sort of company that acquires a very similar level of data to Netflix, how do you think you're going to activate brands with Netflix data? You're not going to do that, right? Unless you're selling DVDs, right? You know what I mean? Like,
and that's why YouTube is so powerful for the ad spenders, because people look up on YouTube literally things they're interested in and care about, and so it's so easy for marketers to go and place ads on those specific videos.
That's true.
So yeah, 100%, dude. I think you did a great job explaining it. I don't know if you have anything else you want to cover. I know a big thing we also want to talk about was maybe some international expansion.
Yeah, so I think that's part of the Marigold situation too, right? Like Marigold, I think it was like 7% of Marigold's revenue across the entire company came from international, but I believe I may be wrong, so don't quote me.
I think Zeta was 7% and Marigold was up. I could be completely wrong. I think Zeta was 7% and then Marigold was like 30.
No, Zeta's at 3%.
Okay.
So
3% international. Holy crap!
So Marigold across the entire organization, we're talking small business, medium-sized business segment, and enterprise, it was around 7%. If you segregate just enterprise, it was around 30%.
Okay.
So Zeta, we acquired that. I say we, I mean Zeta. We as shareholders, we acquired that. So it gives us a tremendous amount of exposure internationally, and perhaps the potential to bring Zeta's international exposure up to around 7 or 8% year one. It'll be interesting to see how rapidly that'll be able to grow. But a lot of people don't know this. Zeta has an acquisition team. That acquisition team is like no other MarTech. they have an acquisition team with the specific intent of when a company is acquired, or sorry, targeted and identified, that they say will enhance their product, either their data set or their technology. They will be confident and will only move upon this company if they're confident they can integrate that company completely into their ecosystem within 12 months. If they can't do it within 12 months, they won't acquire the company. That's completely different than the ethos of Salesforce or Adobe, where they just say, hey, acquire this thing, it's a plugin or some
Yeah.
sort of add-on
Oh,
entity.
it's like a bolt-on piece of crap.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. So that tells me like the whole mantra, the ethos of this company is completely different than the status quo in this industry. This is a new age company for MarTech. We're going through a massive technological boom. And I think Zeta just kind of escaped that one weak point where they had the highest probability of being acquired by one of these large companies. And now they broke through. And now they're having that moment where they can just rapidly rise and ascend to the top of this market over the next 30 years, and probably within the next 5 years acquire 10% wallet share. Keeping in mind they're at 1.25% wallet share right now.
Yeah, that's crazy. And for another thing that I don't know, I think about a little more is like Zeta is actually a lot older than people think. They're almost a 20-year-old company.
Yeah.
But this new age Zeta that we see now is about 2020, 2021 in terms of the re-architecture and how they go about as a company. And
Yep.
so again, to me, again, I hate doing this. It's a similar thing to Palantir. Palantir was only government for about 18 years. And then in 2021 or 2020, they decided, let's do commercial. And now they're 6 years into commercial, and they're doing 4 billion years of dollars in revenue a year.
Well, isn't that the interesting thing? Correct me if I'm wrong. You two are very like Palantir bulls, like early days, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story about Palantir afterwards. You'll laugh at me, but didn't it take Palantir 18 years to hit GAAP profitability?
Oh yeah, they weren't profitable until 2020.
Isn't it
or
interesting that Zeta is approaching its 18th year?
Yeah, dude.
I'm telling you, there's so many things that this is why I hate saying it, but like there's so many
weird.
different things that are aligning. Like
It's weird omen, man.
still the same founder, time to value, their Athena AIP moment, GAAP profitability in 18 years. Like there's so many different things that are similar, completely different companies. And I don't think Zeta is going to 20x in 18 months. By the way, that's not going to happen in my opinion. I wouldn't hate it if it did. I would love to retire in the next 3 years, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, that's why one of my favorite quotes is from the interview with Nick and David when he compared the two. And he's like, we want to be just as good as them at what we do. And I'm like, okay, dude, if you're going to praise Palantir and try to model your business after them, as someone who is,
which you
like,
can see them doing with
personality.
inviting us out. Like Palantir was one of the first companies to invite retail out. So like again, they're going down that route, and I'm hoping, like we talked about, Davis, they go down the route of AthenaCons.
Yeah, and the way he's rolling out Athena is just like AIP2. He's like, hey, it's free because I know you're going to spend more with me.
Bingo. Yeah.
It's like,
eerily
that's
similar,
the confidence.
Right? It's eerily similar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's brilliant too. It's like if you see a roadmap that works so well, like, why not do something very similar, right? It makes sense. It makes sense. And frankly, I'm happy that retail is finally giving it some recognition. Like I go into X every day, and every day I see people talking about Zeta, and I can't tell you from like early days of 2025, just like waiting for the Deloitte report to come out and be like, like, is this like actually a doomsday or not? Because the short report cited something like 53% of the data being exposed.
That's really bad. Yeah.
And
if it was true, it would be really bad.
I saw this opportunity. Zeta first came up on my radar through a screener I have, which shows like, stocks that are growing free cash flow at a certain rate and revenue top line growth at a certain rate, but these stock prices like collapse completely. So I just have a little screener just to pick up some of these names, and I kind of like look into them. And I saw Zeta. I was like, oh, this is an interesting company. And I was like, okay, why did it crash? Found out about the short report. See that they've issued, that they're going to get a third party sort of analysis of the business and get an audit done. Let me wait and see what's going to happen because that number looks atrocious. Anyways, going from like those early days to starting a position, talking about it, being like a 600 follower account on X to now like what am I at? Like 12,000 something? And
Humble brag, humble brag.
yeah, but it's wild though, just from talking
Yeah.
about one single company. And there's something Emmett said recently on his stream. He's like, if I were you and I wanted to like start to kind of like build a reputation, he said just get obsessed with one name and just talk
Yeah.
about it nonstop. Just really get passionate about it, but you have to be interested in it. You have to know what you're talking about. And you have to do the hard work. That's so true. That is so true because with Zeta, I just got obsessed with it. I saw an opportunity. I realized nobody was talking about it and that it was very difficult to understand. And just so happens I'm more of a technical guy anyway. So I like technology. It's kind of in my wheelhouse. I was like, this is a little bit of challenge for me. Let me figure out a way to first let me understand this company and then figure out a way to articulate it to the average person so that they can also too understand it. And like right now we're going through that struggle of like, okay, why do they have a data advantage? And like I'm trying to come up with ways to articulate that to you that
Yep.
you guys can digest that information and then confidently invest in this company and then research it further yourself as well. It's just such an interesting opportunity, man. It's so cool.
No,
Yeah,
I'd say you're
100%.
definitely helping because me, I'm not the most technical guy. Like, I'm just a regular retail investor who just happens to have some pretty strong connections, I guess. But no, you've helped me understand Zeta a lot more just by talking to you here. Like, I understand the I understand the importance of the first party data. Like, I
Mhm.
still struggle to articulate it like you can, but I mean, I really like I like Zeta a lot more now, just based
Yeah.
on this hour long conversation.
Dude, you know what? Frankly, your network must be the best network on X. I don't like Davis messaged me when he was at CES. He's like, dude, check this out. He sent me a photo. He's in the Zeta room. And I'm like, what the hell? He's like, I'm by myself. I'm like, what do you mean you're by yourself? Like, how did you end up there? That's
No
crazy.
one else joined me, so I'm like, I just got to go solo. But I don't know. It's crazy. And I've
That's
thought
awesome.
about taking the same route as you guys and trying to become like a
Dude, why
bigger
not?
name on X. I don't know. It's a lot of work. It really is.
Yeah, no, it
Well,
is. Yeah.
yes and no, dude. Honestly, like to me, now it's just second nature. I've done so much research on this company and I stay up to date with it that I can look
Right.
at something and I can confidently say whether or not something is BS, something I should be concerned about, whether this breaks the moat, whether it enhances it, whether I should be excited when I shouldn't be excited. Once you get to that level of comfortability and you know a company inside out, like
Hmm.
it's not hard. Yes, to get to that point is quite difficult. It takes time, and you have to dedicate yourself and to actually have the due diligence to peel back the information and challenge a thesis and build out some information and pitch it to people. But once you're in that place, it's almost like autopilot. Like now I can just look at the company and what they're releasing, and it kind of fits into the whole thesis like a puzzle.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like we like it. So it comes a little more
Right.
natural and it's a little easier because we enjoy it.
Of course.
It's a
You
lot
know,
harder work when you hate something.
I asked this question to Nate yesterday, but I want to ask you, Nick. What is your worry with Zeta? Like, what is your bear case? What what is it?
What I'm most worried about right now is a headline that says the judge will hear the legal case. I don't think she will. I think she's going to throw it out. However, that headline has the possibility to tank the stock another 25%.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about long term though?
Long term, it doesn't break the
Uh,
thesis
no, I
because
mean,
it's
what are your bear cases long term?
harm.
So that's like a short term
Yeah.
sentiment bear case. But what about like a long term? Is there anything that you can think of? I mean, we're kind of throwing you on the spot, but
Long term, there's nothing jumps out as a screaming concern. However, long term, I'll be very curious to see what Adobe's going to do because Adobe's not just going to keel over and die like Oracle. Salesforce very well may just be cornered out of the market. They're in a very fragile position, let's put it that way.
yeah,
And I project they will be even more so when the whole agent force thing kind of unravels a bit. Um,
which it
but
sucks by the way. I use it on a daily basis. It's not good.
yeah, yeah. I'd be I'm watching Adobe because Adobe can scream back into this fight. If they identify another first party consumer intent database, which right now there is nothing comparable. So in the immediate 5 years, there is no direct threat to their database and their data mode advantage. But if you're thinking 10 years out, it's very hard to project what technological changes and
Oh
advantages
yeah.
of that, right? So that's my only long-term sort of concern. Then again, who knows where Zeta will be? Zeta may be even in a much better position. I understand what Roy said to me and what Tanner said to me. Their concern is that they don't have a touch point with Zeta like they do with Google or Meta.
Yeah.
So when Google, like Tanner was mentioning, he was able to call BS on the AI is going to kill Google argument because he could interact with Google. He understood their data advantage. He knew what their product was and what their moat is. So when somebody said AI is going to kill this company, if you're a sane individual and you understand the technology, you could simply say, you know what, I don't think that's accurate, right? He doesn't have that touch point with Zeta.
What's funny? You know what's funny again?
What's
Are
that?
you gonna say Palantir?
Similar to Palantir.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know
The
anything.
reason everyone didn't want to buy Palantir, the biggest bear case for Palantir was it's a black box. No one uses it. We've never seen it used. I don't believe it. I don't trust it. And so it literally, again, a
Yep.
similar thesis to Palantir where, and I know in the chat, I'm sorry. But like,
True.
it's like literally that was the entire bear case for Palantir. It was,
So
it's a black box. You know, we don't understand it. I don't have a touch point, so I don't want to buy it.
I'm trying to crack that open, like right here, right now.
I would love if Zeta gave us an opportunity to be able to demo Zeta. I
There
think
is a
that'd be
demo.
really
You want to
cool.
see the demo?
No, but I mean like you could watch a demo, sure, but I mean give us
Oh,
an actual
yeah.
sandbox environment to play with it with data sets and that aspect of it, like a Salesforce where you can open up a sandbox,
Yeah.
kind of
No,
just
I
play
agree.
with it.
I agree.
Which
Yeah.
Palantir ended up doing 3 years later, where they gave people like me access to their sandbox to be able to play with things and be like, oh, so this is what it means when they talk about their digital twins and they talk about their transformational layer and all these things. You can actually play with it and be like, oh, okay. And for me, that created a bigger bull case because now I actually can use it. And so I'm wishing and hoping, being in the CRM space, that Zeta can give me access to like a sandbox and I can play with it and go, oh, I see what you mean when you say you first party data, you can connect with your network and the partnerships matter and all these other things that we talk about.
Well,
Because I
if you
do kind of
actually
agree that.
go,
What'd you say?
maybe you can. I said if you actually go this time, you can ask me in
Oh,
person.
shut up. Yes, but
Dude,
I will. Dude, you guys are. Yes, I will show up this time. I promise. I promise. But yeah, it's again, it's similar to Palantir. I hate saying it, but it is.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we can't deny there's similarities, right? Like technologically speaking, completely different companies. But you're noticing a lot of similarities in like how the product's offered, right?
Yeah.
And corporate strategies, like management strategies, how they're approaching like go to market. It just shows you go to market is such a powerful strategy if done right. If you have a team that knows exactly what they're doing with the product, and David talked a little bit about that at the Athena event at CES, and Davis, I'm sure you remember this. He talked about the debate internally about whether or not Athena should be free or if it should be a paid product, and
Yep.
and people go back and forth internally. And if you have a strong go-to-market team, you'll realize there's a flywheel there. If you give somebody something for free, they'll be like, "Oh my God, yeah, I'm going to use this." Like, that's crazy. Just like the example you gave, the analogy, that massive Fortune, whatever, 50 company, some sort of CFO or whatever it was, said, "What do you mean this is free?" And he's like, "Yes, it's free. And I guarantee you, once you use it, you're going to spend 300, 400% more on my platform." That's the flywheel right there. And if you have a very good team that can develop a strategy, like proper go-to-market strategy, you can deliver products like this and create these flywheels that just enhance that value proposition and literally push customers and clients that you already have into new channels for the revenue growth. Because if you guys remember from my little slide pitch there, I had some of those fiscal charts, and one of them was I think it was the average account value per client, and that chart is just vertical. It's like a 15.5% CAGR, and I brought up to the guys on the stream at Stock Tank, and I said, "This is before you have Athena. Athena is like this pouring gasoline on a fire. Right now, this is a nice fire. It's burning. It's red hot. We're about to throw gasoline on the fire with Athena, and this thing is going to take off. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like the amount of acceleration to account value per client that we're going to see. I'm very excited.
100%. All right, well, gents, we've been doing this for almost an hour and a half, which is insane. I do want to end off. Nick, you said you had a funny story about Palantir, so I want to hear about it before we go. I want to know, was it like you bought it 7 and sold it 12 or something like that? A classic story.
Yeah, so I was a very big Meta guy. Like I was one of those guys who was buying Meta when it was around like 80 something.
Yeah, 2022 and then 85, 80,
I was one of those guys. But I wasn't a guy buying Palantir because I was one of those guys who said, I don't know what the product is.
Yep.
Right? And I remember looking at myself when Palantir, you see what I did there. When Palantir was about like $20 a share, and I looked at the PE, and the PE ratio was like at 60. I was like, nah, I'll wait until this thing comes down to like 18, because then it would be a reasonable like 48 PE, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't come down. And that was my last opportunity. And that's when we could actually realize what the product was, right? This was like in the 2024 timeline. And it was like I had that last opportunity to buy it there when it's still kind of in that reasonable wheelhouse, and I just didn't. And I remember looking back at that and saying, okay, if I ever see an opportunity to identify a product in the future or an opportunity in the future that I don't understand the technology, I need to spend a ridiculous amount of time understanding it. If the fundamentals look like it and the value proposition's there, and I've done that now with 2 companies, then it's about to be 3. So, and I think it's going to pay off in the long run. So far, Zeta has been great, and I'm very, very confident in that. I have another 2 lined up. So it's, that's my story. So I never really got into Palantir ever.
Yeah.
Ever. I was too focused on Meta, but then at that point in time, when I took some of those gains from Meta and I had the opportunity to put them in Palantir, I never did.
100%. I mean, I think we're going to see, hopefully, we're going to hear a lot of similar stories of people who are going to not buying Zeta because they didn't understand the product. But yeah, that's everything on my side. I don't know if you guys have anything else before we hop off.
Oh, yeah. So quick announcement, little cliffhanger. I have some interviews coming up.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll just leave it there. We'll talk more later. So if anybody's still sticking in the stream, we're going to get some good information. Let's put it that way.
Awesome. Well, Sig, I'm looking. Any idea of when it might be released?
No idea yet. When I have more information, I'll share.
Okay, cool. All right. Sweet. All right, well, I appreciate everyone watching. We've had like 20 to 25 people the whole time. So thanks again for everyone watching. It's been super fun. We'll probably do this again. I would love maybe long-term turn it into like a Zeta Weekly. But yeah, appreciate everyone watching, and we'll catch you next time.
We'll see you guys.
Peace.